Okay, so this video was probably the most, the first really, really profound experience that I've ever had with my wife. And this is one of many. And so, but I want to get this one out of the way. So we were down in Mexico, and we were fucking mosquitoes. Okay, so we were down in Mexico, and it was Karina, Chris, and myself. And Chris was out on the patio, and Karina and I were in the kitchen. And we were in the kitchen, and we were talking on FaceTime with our daughter Cecilia and our grandkids, 3 of our grandkids. And we had just gotten it was a Friday night. We had just gotten there. So then Chris was outside, and Karina and I were inside. We were talking to the kids, and again I was pretty late. So then as soon as we said goodbye, so we have a patio. I mean the counter. The counter kind of goes like this, and there's a wall. We kind of go around, so we can kind of go around both ways to the living room. So anyways, we were on the end of the counter, and we said goodbye, and then all of a sudden I could feel like a presence, like my dad was behind me, and my dad passed away like 7 years ago. So I felt my dad kind of like come into, and he literally entered my body. Now the reason I believe this happened the way that it did was because my father always wanted that technology. My father always wanted the technology to be able to see me and talk to me via FaceTime. But we have FaceTime now. But when he was, it just wasn't around when he was alive, and he passed away, and sadly we never got to use that. But he always talked about it. He goes, man, when are they gonna invent this shit? Like MCI had invented that big ass phone, or the phone where they had the little screen right there. That's about as furthest or as closest that we had, but it just wasn't there yet at that time when he passed away. So sadly, we never got to do that. But when we hung up with my daughter and the grandkids, my father was there. And then, so anyways, we hung up, and then he enters into my body, and I instinctively, I could feel him. Let me back up. We hung up, he entered my body, and then I started to walk around, because I was going to walk around the corner and go outside, walk around the island, I mean. So then we hung up, I started to walk, and then as I was turning, I felt him come into my body, and then I got really weak, because it's just incredibly overwhelming. So then I was holding myself up against the wall, and then I closed my eyes, and then I felt my dad come into me, and he was telling me that he was so happy that he got to experience that with me, because he finally got to experience what he always wanted to experience through me at that time with the kids, and it was really beautiful. So then all of a sudden I felt myself, I felt my dad come to me, come through me, and he told me that. And then all of a sudden I saw like this. It was like a little pool of water, like a decent sized pool of water, but it was like gold. It looked like magma, like volcanoes when the lava is like kind of exploding. It looked like that, but it wasn't that. But I instinctively knew that it was gold. Kind of weird, but you just know these things. So they'll show you the picture, and then you'll get the understanding. So then I see this little puddle of water. It was like a pool of water, but it was actually it's a pool of gold. And then I see this man come out of this like form, kind of like in Terminator. Remember the Terminator? It was just like that, but it was gold. So this guy comes up, and he was like, strong. And then my father, saw that it was a golden man like this, and then he went down back into the water, and then all of a sudden he came back up, and then it was kind of weird, but he was covered in like this in giant awkward pieces of strong rock, like granite or marble or whatever it was, And the reason that I saw that was because my father wanted me to understand. And again, you just know these things. You don't know how you know, but you know. So he wanted me to understand that he thought like I was made out of gold, like he loved me that much, and then that he saw me as a very strong man. And so that's the interpretation that I got from those two instances. And then it's really, and here's the weird part that I don't understand. And I've heard a couple of good assumptions and theories, but it just doesn't make sense to me. So after that happened, so the form came up of the golden boy. He went down, came back up of the fucking granite boy, went back down, and then all of a sudden the man was, it was me. I knew that it was me, and I was standing there, and I was covered with all these. It was kind of like when in the movie The Matrix. Remember the Sentinels, those freaking things like the octopus. It wasn't like that, but it was like that. But they were small, and they looked like little I don't know, like little worms. It was crazy. But all of a sudden, the man that I was, that this Mr. Superman guy, was completely covered. Like I couldn't even see my body. And these things were just feeding off of me. Like, but it wasn't malicious, and it wasn't a bad way. Which it wasn't a scary or negative feeling or thought at all. Nothing about it. It was very matter of fact. Like this is what these things do. Like if you're walking your dog and he sees a meatball, he's gonna eat it because that's what dogs do. It was kind of like that. So these things were kind of like just, and I don't know if they were taking my energy or what they were doing, but all of a sudden I tried to shake them off and they wouldn't come off, but they eventually disappeared. But that did happen. I don't want to leave that out. I don't know what that part meant. So then I was in this space where I crossed over, and then my friend Chris came in through the door, and he slid. We had a screen door, so when he slid it, I kind of snapped out of it, and I came back. And then I was telling him, oh my god, I was freaking out. And then I guess he freaked out. So anyways, he went back inside. He went back outside, and then my wife came to me, and then I was very emotional. I was, because I just kind of felt my dad. So then my wife came to me, and then I hugged my wife, and this was crazy. So then all of a sudden, when I hugged my wife, I closed my eyes, and this is all happening like within the same time. I closed my eyes, and then all of a sudden I saw myself, and we were like in this. We were definitely 100% in a different place. We weren't here on Earth. And then I saw kind of like a silhouette of my wife. And she was, like when you jump rope. So all of a sudden, I saw my wife went like this, and she went like that, like a jump rope. But it was almost like a silky thing that she went over. She went over me, and I instinctively knew that was her love for me, and it was crazy. So then it's like my soul connected to her soul. I swear to you, this is 100% true. And then I just felt this overwhelming. This incredible love from my wife. And it was her soul showing me how much she loves me on a soul level. Nothing was in this 3D world. Nothing. It was all on a different realm and a different level. So then all of a sudden I saw my wife and it was kind of weird. But I saw her I saw her soul energy, and I saw she had a very unique, what should I call it? Not DNA, but like a signature. And it was a line and then dash. And the line was green, and in the dash, one of them, at the end of the dash, it had a circle, a different color circle, and then two circles, and each circle was different. And so just by that explanation by itself, it should give you an understanding as to how many different possibilities and combinations, almost like Morse code. It was like Morse code, but in color. So that's how it was. And that was her unique vibratory or energetic pattern. So then I saw that, and then all of a sudden I saw my wife, and it was kind of weird. I didn't even know how to describe this, but I could see that her soul was incredibly important, almost like, and then I had like this vision of like a military person, who they're and like their entire staff underneath them. And so there was my wife, her energetic footprint, and then underneath her was all these other souls, if you will, that she was quote unquote responsible for. We have a lot of kids. We got, we had the 4 kids, and we got 10 grandkids. And so that makes a lot of sense to me, that she was responsible for all of this other very important energetic sources. And so I saw that, and then and again, I could literally see like these lines. It was like just this lines, and it was her entire energetic vibration going around and engulfing me and circling me. And then all of a sudden I felt myself, if you guys remember the movie Indiana Jones, when they were underneath the coffin, so they're like, they were underneath some shit on all the rats. They had to get away from somebody lit a fire. They were going to get blown up. If you don't know this, you should watch it. I'm not going to tell you anymore. Watch Indiana Jones. So we were kind of like that, but yet there was like a wall dividing us. And so she was on one side and I was on the other side. So we're covered. There's like water, and there's like a wall between us. So we're both in the water, so to speak, but there's a wall that separates us. So I was in mine, she was in hers. And then I instinctively knew that her side of the pool was just so vast and deep. And then all of a sudden I felt that water bubbling up like that, and then it just spilled over to me, and it was all of her love. And it's literally like I was drowning in her love. phenomenal. I can't even describe the words. I can't even begin to tell you how fascinating this was. So then, now this is after we had lost our son Raymond. So then I was hugging. So then all of a sudden I found myself. So then the whole pool thing and the water thing, that kind of went away. And then all of a sudden I felt myself. We were kind of like in a game show. Okay. So I was hugging my wife, right? And then when I would hug her, there was like a little number sign. It was literally white with the numbers. And the numbers were like 92, 91, 89. And then every time I would hug my wife, it's like when you go to the circus and you hit that thing and it rings a bell. It was like that. So every time I would hug my wife, it would go to 100 and like ring the bell. And it was like a celebration. I would literally see the number 100 and like celebrations. And so what it wanted me to understand, and the understanding behind this was that my wife is 91, 92% on her own, but I complete her. I'm the rest of her. I'm the part that completes her, makes her 100%. That's the lesson that I wanted me to understand, which I thought was very interesting. And so I would hug her, and I did it like 3 times. And every time I hug her, the initial number was different, but every time I hugged her, we'd ring the bell, it was 100%. So it was showing me that I complete her. And then all of a sudden I saw on the wall, it was 60/40. And I didn't know what that meant. So I just saw the number there, no big deal. And then here's my wife again. So I do what I do, and I went to hug her. And I hugged her, and there was no bell. There was no prize. And I was like, let me do it again. So then I hugged her again, and nothing happened. And I'm like, something's wrong, something's not right. So then I hugged her again, nothing still. So then all of a sudden I saw a picture of my wife, and she looked like the best way I can describe it is like a poor peasant girl who was just broken, who just had a terrible, miserable life and just couldn't wait to die, And then what it wanted me to understand, and then all of a sudden, it's like we were looking for a mechanic, and then I had this vision of the universe, of everything, and they were telling me this part can't be fixed. No, there's not a mechanic in the universe that can fix this. And what it wanted me to understand was that was the part of my wife that was destroyed, so to speak, because we lost our son. And then so so back up a little bit, I was having, it was kind of tough, we lost our kid, and I could see my wife going through such a hard time. And as her husband, I'm like, shit, what do I got to do? My wife is like she's broken. How do I fix it? And that's my job as a husband. And I had been struggling with that the weeks prior to this trip. And so what it wanted me to understand was like, dude, no mechanic in the universe can fix this. This is always going to be here. And that's her representation of her loss for Raymond. So stop beating yourself up because you can't fix her. And just like that, it was done. And it's funny because she had her own similar experience that same time at the patio. But if she ever decides, I'll let her tell you her side of the story. But it literally kind of healed me from the loss, if you will, because I knew that I couldn't fix that part of her. So then I'm gonna get some water. Give me a second. And this is the part. This part here is the one that really blew me away. This is probably one of the most important events that ever happened to me. So this is all during the same time. So what happened next? So then it helped me understand the loss part of her and Raymond. I mean, what she was going through as a mother with the loss of Raymond. So then all of a sudden, I don't know where I was, but in front of me, I could hear this. I felt like I was in a factory, like a loud, industrious factory. And all I could hear was like, like something smashing together, clashing together. And I didn't know what it was. It didn't make any sense. And then what I saw in front of me was like if you take a fire log, like when they make firewood. So it's a regular log, about yay big, about 2 feet long. And it was like split in half. And so what it was, and so what the loud clashing was, I finally kind of was able to focus my eyes. I closed my eyes, but I was able to focus on what was going on. And then all of a sudden, I saw that there were 2 smoky quartz crystals, and they were coming together. So it sounds crazy because they were in the shape of like fire logs, which they don't normally come that shape, but these were in the shape of a fire log. They were cylindrical and they were cut down the middle, and it was a smoky quartz crystal. And then so these things were being smashed together like boom, boom, like it was like a factory, like an assembly line. And then all of a sudden I saw, it took me to like another dimension. And then all of a sudden, I swear to God, everything that I'm going to tell you is true. So then it took me to another dimension, like another world. And then it showed me, a guy like in a backhoe, and he was digging like these long trenches, kind of like when they lay, tubing or lay pipe for miles and miles and miles. It was like that. And then all of a sudden, I saw a lady sitting at a desk. She had like a little sweater on, just a 40 lady in her 40s or 50s. She had a sweater on and she was doing some kind of work, and there was a piece of crystal right there on her desk. And then it all came together, and it told me that that crystal, okay, let me back up. So the love that Karina and I created is like, it's energy like a crystal. And the energy that we create here, the love energy that we create here, is being used in other dimensions, in other realms. Just like we buy crystals here, and if you look around my house, we got crystals everywhere. So it wanted me to understand that is how powerful and how important our love is in other places. Now that's a big freaking deal because I can't even make that shit up. I'm not that creative. I'm just not. So, when things like this happen, they make you look at yourself a little bit differently, way differently. You can never look at yourself the same once you've had these types of experiences. So then here's part 2 to that, which that in and of itself to me is crazy. So then all of a sudden I saw myself, so I was in communication with something, or something. They were telling me something, and I should have drawn this out, but I'm a terrible artist. And so I'll do the best that I can. So those fans that ladies have, like, when they open it up like this thing, so all of a sudden I saw like this fan, right? And they were like conveyor belts. And there were like 6 or 7 conveyor belts. And then the majority of them were covered, but the one where we were making the crystals was open. And then it's funny because you know how like when you open it up, it's got the little piece on the bottom. And so this is crazy. So I understand that there are many negative entities here in this realm that also feed off of our energy. It's called loosh. And then so the entity told me, this is how we use your energy. Your energy is real important. And then before I could even formulate the question, yeah, but what about loosh? What about the uses of our energy for negative things? And he tells me, as above, so below. It's like, and then he showed me like a business, and they were stealing stuff out the back door, like putting it in vans and stealing it. And he's like, look, man, it's like that everywhere. So yeah, people are going to use your energy for negative stuff. But what's important to understand is that just like the fan, it was the negative part was a small portion of our energy, kind of like skimming off the top. But the important part is much, much bigger. And then so back to the conveyor belt type thing, and I'll try to draw it. Maybe it'll be a little bit better. But he wanted me to understand that your positive love is so much more important than that. That's like pennies on the dollar. People stealing, people using your loosh. It's nothing compared to what your love is really worth and what we really use it for. And the other conveyor belts were just different uses of our love, of our energy, that serve a much, much bigger purpose throughout the universe, throughout the galaxy. Swear to God, that's a true story. So I had an experience a couple of days ago that also talks about uses of our energy. Oh, shit, I'll just tell you right now. So this is not, so the story that I just told you about us in Rocky Point with my dad and Karina, this happened about a year ago, about a year and a half ago. Okay, so it did not recently happen. But what I'm going to tell you now recently happened, and I'll try to be brief because I know we've been going on for a while. So then, I'm just gonna start over.